So let's queer up health. With FDA lift on gay blood donation bans, the AMA is pushing for other tissue donations to be treated the same. After a decade of advocacy from the AMA, the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, the spring finally removed its long-standing restrictions on blood donations from men who have sex with men. Jesse M. Ehrenfeld, MD, PhD, who is the first openly gay person elected as AMA president, said the fact the victory came so recently shows that stigma and discrimination against LGBTQ plus people are still prevalent. The AMA is advocating that the FDA push this policy further by removing similar restrictions regarding corneas, human cells, and other tissue-based products. It is just one of several ways in which the AMA is working to address inequities affecting LGBTQ plus patients. Most recently, the AMA House of Delegates adopted a policy calling for equal access to adoption services for LGBTQ plus families, endorsed efforts to encourage more LGBTQ plus representation in medicine, and reaffirmed its support for dedicated public health and public policy to lower suicides among LGBTQ plus youth. In addition, the AMA and others filed an amicus brief in federal court to protect access to pre-exposure prophylaxis, PrEP, and other preventative care services under the Affordable Care Act. The AMA is working diligently at the state and federal levels to expand access to medical services, reduce stigma in treating patients with unique needs, and break down discriminatory barriers to necessary care. So, I was really happy to see that the ban was lifted because it really affected me when I was a young guy and came out, and I didn't realize that I couldn't give blood anymore because I was one of those gallon donors. It was part of my civic duty, I felt. Year after year, I was one of these gallon donors giving, and when I decided to be real with myself, I went to give blood, and I'm reading the questionnaires, and I was like, wait, is this going to affect whether I give blood or not? So I lied. I lied many times when I first gave blood because I knew that I was less risk or had less of a risk of transmitting HIV than straight people at the time. I was not promiscuous at all. I was always safe sex, being tested, and I just thought, wow, this is, not great for my psyche and my mental health, although I understood that because of the science of it, that there was this margin of error of being able to catch HIV. I was okay with it at the time, even though it really hurt me. And so I stopped giving blood because I didn't want to lie anymore. I just didn't want to lie about anything in my life, so I stopped. And then I saw, what these restrictions lifted and that they have better testing, and I'm glad that this happened. I also want to make a note that it is not just a broad lift of the ban for gay people. If you are on PrEP, you cannot give blood. And if you've had anal sex, I just wanted to read that last part of it. Those who have had anal sex with a new sexual partner or more than one sexual partner within the last 3 months would be asked to wait to donate blood. So it's not a full lift on it, and for, I understand, good reason.
Well, I think it's usually 3 months because they say if you travel somewhere, wait 3 months for whatever it is, So take note. Trini lied on a government form. Come get him whenever you're ready. I'll hold him outside. All right. All right. Let's start there. So, I have to agree with Trini in that aspect. I mean, come on. There has been a blood shortage. There still is a blood shortage, right? And every time a catastrophe happens, they still won't take our blood, and and I can include myself in that because those questions that Trini's talking about also affected me. Have you had sex with a man who has had sex with a man? Yes, I had. On many occasions, I slept with a man that would also sleep with a man, So, you never know who those guidelines affect, right? But it also affects the person on the other end that is dying of a horrible disease and can't get the needed necessary blood that they need. Case in point, my wife has type O blood, and for that reason, she won't give the blood. She goes, "You won't accept my gay brother's blood, then you're not getting mine either." And anybody can take O blood. So it's a really good blood that she has, and she just won't. These lifts need to happen, and they need to be across the board.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as excited about this story as you and Trini are, for the simple thing that you said there at the end, where you said there's still stigma. Mm-hmm. We still can't give if we've had sex in the last 3 months. Why? Why? You know, straight people have
What's the why? Why?
discrimination.
There it is. It's homophobia. It's absolutely homophobia.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, the statistical risk of transmitting HIV from a blood donor is the same as a meteor hitting New Mexico and wiping out Albuquerque. It's homophobia. That's the reason why. And medical professionals and the AMA and other organizations have not moved as fast as they should have because of the conservative reaction that they would get from AIDS from the 1980s. And blood testing in the last 5 years is completely changed.
Yeah.
It is an astronomical, I won't say impossibility, because science is not absolute, but it is so astronomically small, it does not justify the blood ban over the last 5 years. Go pre-2017, and maybe we could have a different argument. But for the last 5 years, it's blatant homophobia.
Legal homophobia.
Period.
And it's
Like
legal.
that.
That's it.
And so, you know, Alice, I was on the fence with this because I totally agree with you. Because the moment that you have a blood drive at school, the moment you have a blood drive at church, and you want everyone to come, and those people who may automatically know they don't want to go against their ethics, they're now ostracized. And so then now you have to tell your community why you can't. What's wrong with you? And then that brings now another harmful situation. And to your point, there's been so many strides and pre-testing. There's so much pre-work that's done in donating tissue. They sample, they do everything they have to do. So the moment they catch something like this, they're able to move it left to right. But you're putting someone in harm's danger. Imagine going to a church and checking a box that the straight folks don't have to do, but this queer person has. Now the entire church knows. Now the entire church can be this person can be subjugated to harm and ridicule.
And one step further before we go. Before whoever the authorities that Faye has called in to meet us at the door when we finish Queer News tonight, Trinidad's story is the proof of the homophobia, because at the end of the day, Trinidad tells us, I'm an Uber blood donor. I'm in the Gallon Club in whatever time period that does, because I feel it's my civic duty. And the homophobia that takes place of saying in some way, it is not your risk, but you process going, there's some shame of the risk of it, and therefore I lie. Well, what difference does it make if you lie or not? It does not change the statistical risk of getting HIV through blood donation. So you're forced to lie to the point that they force you out of the system. The homophobia wins. And Trinidad is the proof of that. It is a terrible process, and they should completely eliminate it, and the restrictions that they have on anal sex should be completely eliminated, because they are tools of oppression. And that's all this is. We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.